Okay, so then we're starting the meeting at 6:39 p.m. And we currently have Mike, myself, Stu, Joel, Karen, Mary, and Joanne. So we have met a quorum with 4 board members. So we'll go ahead and start at this time. Let me get back my agenda back here. Sorry. Here. Where did it go? No. Okay, I just lost my agenda. That's why I was trying. I said that I had a fear of that.
I've got it. You want me to read it?
Well, I have it. Yeah, if you can help me till I get it back, I wrote it down. So if I miss anything, Karen, just let me know.
Okay.
So,
Sure.
Do we have a motion to adopt the current agenda?
I move to adopt the agenda.
Okay. So adopted. It's Karen. Okay. Okay, and then we have the. Is there any discussion about the approval for the February 15th minutes? I'm stalling. Okay, so do we have a motion to adopt the February 15th minutes?
Move to adopt the February 15th minutes.
Okay, any objections? All in favor? Okay, yes, and I did not take a vote on the adoption of the agenda either, so we should probably do that. Is there any objections to the adoption of the agenda? All in favor, okay. So announcements, we have an opening on the committee. We only currently have 6 committees and we have 7 positions. I do have a candidate and I've been communicating with him, so hopefully we'll be able to have the board approve a new committee member for during the next meeting. However, if there's anyone, we'll still collect. If you know of anyone that still wants to be on the committee, please definitely have them submit so we have some in our back pocket. I do have a second announcement regarding upcoming meetings. On May 15th, we will be having a meeting where we will be collecting input for the operational budget. And on June 19th, we will be collecting input for the capital budget. Do we think we can do this via Zoom or do
What do you mean by collecting input for?
you
Do
to
we
meet
mean
in person if it doesn't create a hardship for the staff? So the next 2 meetings, because we're going to be looking at the operational budget and the capital budget over the next 2 months.
so you mean those budgets will be created, drafts, and we will be
No,
reviewing them?
No, not created yet.
Yeah, in the past, staff has presented a budget. And then committee members have had the opportunity to make adjustments or criticisms of that budget. This year, we would like to get feedback about the current budget as it pertains to next year's budget. For example, if a certain category has been overspent for the last 3 years running, the committee may want to say, we should really increase this, as a budgeted expense so that we don't have to charge UDR or we don't have to, do something else in order to cover that overspend. It's an opportunity to contribute positively towards a budgeting process instead of just critiquing it afterwards.
Yeah. So Lori, you said you wanted to have that in person?
No, I just wanted input from feedback from you all. Do you think is this something we can do Zoom or should we see if it's possible to have it in person as long as that doesn't create too much of a hardship on the staff? What are your thoughts?
I'm not sure about the in-person on the 15th of May because I might not be here. I'm here now. Could have done it in person today, but I'm not sure. So
Okay, so you
hopefully I can
prefer
still zoom in.
Zoom. Okay. Stu,
I'm
what
good
about
too.
your schedule?
I have no idea where I'm going to be
Could
when.
be. Okay, so, if everyone thinks we can do it Zoom, then I think we should just continue to do it Zoom. It makes it a lot easier on Joanne and Mike and Joel. And there would
I
have to
agree.
be an additional staff person if we were doing it in person.
I'm
So
fine
are
with
we, so
Zoom.
we're all good? Was keeping it at Zoom?
I am, yeah.
Okay, cool. So after we meet with Joel and Joanne, looking at giving input for the budgets, the next step will be the presentation of the budgets, and it'll be on 2 separate days: the operational budget and the capital budget, on the 24th and 25th of July. That will be in person, correct, Joanne?
Yes.
And it's a joint finance board meeting. Because of that, does anyone see a need to keep our July 17th meeting?
No, unless we're gonna throw off some sort of pending capital request. That would be the only reason, is if we were holding staff back, but I think, you know.
Okay, so as of right now, we are going to cancel the 7/17 meeting, but just note if you could put on your calendars on 7/24 and 7/25 in the Dance Barn, joint finance committee and board of directors at 7 o'clock, regular board of directors time, Joel, or does it need to be earlier, or?
Oh, that should be fine. 7 o'clock.
Okay, so it's 7 o'clock. Okay, so it's a Wednesday and Thursday, so it'll be just a week later than our normal meeting. And if you all could be there, that would be great. If you can't, I know it's kind of short notice, but it depends on how far you plan out. Okay. So any other announcements from anyone? Nope. Okay. So we have property owner comments. Joanne, are there any property owners on?
No, there are not.
Okay, so we will move we'll turn it over to Joel. Review of February 2024 financial statements.
Okay. Yes, everyone can see the balance sheet.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll quickly go through this since there isn't really anything earth-shattering going on in February of 2024. I guess one quick thing I'll point out on the balance sheet. So the board directed 105,600 to be moved out of operations to SURF, and that was for the SURF, basically to kind of in advance to cover the SURF marina fee that was discussed back in 2023. Like if I quickly just going back to this 2024 SURF capital plan, and you do see there's that 105,600 in the 2024 column, the cell that I shaded orange. So then you'll see that here, you can see it down here in the equity section, transfer out from capital, 105,006. Transfer out from operations capital, sorry, 105,600. And you see it transferring into capital from operations 105,600. And then if you're curious, like, well, where did it exactly come out of? So that 105,600 came out of this operating cash line item right here, and then was put down into SURF line item here. So that would be really the only exciting thing, if you want to call it that, on the balance sheet. So then quickly moving on to the second page here of so basically the income statement, just bottom line. So the net income loss right here for February year to date, So obviously, full 2 months, 170, just, I'll just round these numbers, 175,000. Now, last year, at the end of February 2023, it was 188,376. So we're pretty close to where we were last year, which is great, especially with all of the hazardous tree costs coming in, through these 2 months that you see right now, year to date of February. So we're better than budget by 38,318. Last year, we were better than budget by about 49,500. So pretty close to where we were running last year at this time. Our collection rate, this is the great thing. So the collection rate is, now normally, as I said before, January and February, especially January, is always the lowest month in terms of collection rate wise. And then February, starts to pick up and March and so on and so forth. And then it obviously becomes the highest at the end of the year. But so we budgeted collection rate for 2024 for a 95% collection rate. And at the end of February, we already hit that 95% year-to-date collection rate already. About a year ago in February 2023, we were at 93.3%. So just giving you an idea, last year we budgeted for 95% as well. So at the end of February 2023, we're at 93.3%. And then we finished out the year at the end of December 2023 at 97.9%. And I've already calculated the collection rate for March, and we've even bumped up at the end of March to 96%. So we're already running 1% above the budgeted collection rate. Let's see, at the end of March of 2023, we were at 95.5%. So we're definitely doing better collection rate wise. And I shared this before, and I'll just quickly state it again in terms of what that means when we budget for a 95% collection rate. So when we get to the end of the year, if we're at, say, a 96% collection rate, then that means operations will have taken in, an additional 26,688 over what we budgeted. SURF will have taken in 13,520. Roads will have taken in 13,906. Mailboxes, $251. And those amounts obviously multiply, it would be double that, obviously, if we came in at 97% collection rate, or triple that at 98% collection rate.
So can I ask a question?
Sure. Yeah.
Sorry, on that previous, what is other income? I've probably asked this before, but it's a pretty big number. 31,000, I think, the 31,298. What's in that line?
Okay, so this line item will basically be things like, kind of like your miscellaneous fees, like advertising fees, signage. That's certain types of fines will go in that category as well, meaning fines related to ACC security type fines. So those types of items.
But is it mostly ad income, I'm guessing? I would imagine we're probably not finding $17,000 worth in a.
We were actually behind on advertising income to budget slightly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Advertising income was 5,600 of that.
Well, okay, so what's the thing that puts us so far ahead? We're $17,000 ahead for the year.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Since this is made of, okay, so it's compliance fees and fines, 17,650 right there.
All right.
So that's the lion's share of it.
Okay.
So Joel, that would be when builders put in their $10,000 deposit and they have $6,000 of fines, they get 4,000 returned. The
Yeah.
6,000 we retain contributes to that dollar.
Oh yeah, correct. It would be,
So
yeah,
that
exactly.
literally could be
Yeah.
two fines.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
it would,
Oh, that doesn't stay in the new home construction fee?
so it would be here it is right here. So compliance, fines and fees under ACC security. So you see actually in February, we took in close to 13,000 of that number. And then year to date, it was 17,650.
Right, but when they pay it, I thought it was this 3,500 number. They pay 10,000?
$10,000 was the standard
Yeah,
deposit.
that's just the
Oh,
yeah,
deposit.
the deposit.
The fee is different. The fee
Yeah.
was 3,500, and last Thursday the board approved an increase to 7,000. So the fee is different. We keep the fee, but the refundable deposit goes into a special account.
Yeah,
It's held and then it's returned if there are no fines.
less like what Lori said, less any fines that we assess on them.
So where does that, what
It's
GO
actually-
code does that hit to?
Like on the balance sheet right here, here's the building
Mhm.
completion deposit funds, 481,920. So those would be the total funds right here. And there's an offset to that, since obviously to us it's a liability, down here
Yeah.
in the liability section.
And then it only hits the income statement when there's a fine?
That's correct, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, thanks.
This is Heather, just finally getting to come in on a meeting. So I was looking at that, that's a little over 5% of that category. What is Sun Valley's policy on calling out something to its own line item? Typically, if we have a generic, other income, other expenses that get lumped together, I realize it might be made up of multiple miscellaneous things, but at some point it should be called out in its own line item if it's getting anywhere near material, which
Oh, sure, yeah, and you're absolutely correct. So like as soon as something really becomes like a material type of an item, or even if it's just something that maybe we have more of an interest in for whatever reason, we can start to call those out separately.
Is it in the more detailed, there's a more detailed income statement? Is it
Um,
called out in that one?
This one is actually going to be a little bit more difficult to
Mm.
pinpoint, like this other AR income right here, because it's lumping several categories together, like several GLs together, since these are all kind of more miscellaneous type things. So pivot tables will lump this together.
Okay. Can I ask one more question on the income statement before we move on?
Sure.
And that is salaries. So we're favorable. How many positions do we have open currently?
So right now we have the environmental planner position is open. Let me see in terms of,
That's it. Just
Just
one.
one? Okay,
yeah.
But
Current,
you see a reversal to this trend in March. Remember that the new collective bargaining agreement was not ratified by the board until February. And so it is in March that you will see all of the retro pay because the salary increases that were in that CBA were retroactive to January the 1st. So you'll see a big jump in salaries on March.
were you guys accruing for that in the past? I'm just inquiring since I haven't been on before.
no, in this case, basically now, if we knew about this in terms of like, let's say we backed up and then it got ratified for some reason in December, then I definitely would have accrued that amount. But since this is falling just, like February, March, then it'll just naturally start hitting the financial statements when we pay it out. But when it definitely comes to payroll, any pay, like for example, that's related to December, at year end, that's when we're going to accrue any pay for that year back into the period. But if it usually we end up expensing it on the income statement when it gets paid out, just as the payroll periods fall. Except for, like I said, at the end of the year, like December, like for example, the first payroll in January will relate like it did this past January, the first payroll entirely to December, and then all of that gets accrued back into December for audit purposes at that point.
Was it budgeted for? I'm just trying to get a lay of the land here, generally speaking. So was it at least in budget if it was probable that it was going to be ratified? Where were we taking note of that possible expense to come through?
Yeah, so in terms of the budget amount, so we did have a 3% amount budgeted that we planned for just for planning purposes in 2024. So the vast majority of it, you could say, was budgeted. Now the payroll cost came in a little higher than that in terms of once the dust settled on the CBA, but for the vast majority of it, yes, it was budgeted. Like the payroll costs were, we budgeted for a 3% just general across the board. That's what we've been doing in the past with CBAs. And then for some people, it would kind of come in around the 5% or so mark or a little higher.
Thank you for explaining that. Appreciate it.
Sure, yeah. Oh, guess I should. I'll just quickly just hit on this. Now, of course, you've heard me talk about this. This basically this reserve cash balance table, which is really handy table in terms of, like, if we just pick on the SURF column right here, it's just showing the dues. This is, now the good thing about this is like cash, that it's coming in. So these would just be the items coming in, like investment income, dues. Here's that board approved transfer, that 105,600. That's where you see the line item coming in here under the SURF one. And then here is just kind of the 2024 expenditures in terms of all the checks that we've written and cut related to SURF, like all the projects and stuff like that we're paying for. One thing you'll see here is the mitigation assignment of savings line item. This 86,923 was released relating to the roads. So you'll see it coming out of this column and now entering in as positive again for roads right here. So they net out. And then down below this 10-month outlook, obviously this is the dues. This is at our 95% budgeted collection rate. Just prior year, kind of like prior year recoveries, you could say. This is just a really conservative estimate right here for past SURF dues that weren't paid. SURF loan payments going out for the year. And then this biggest line item right here is basically this is all the obligated expenses. Now this 1,826,740. So I'll quickly turn to this sheet right here, which is showing you the SURF projects. Now some of these I've already marked as closed. You'll see these red dots that will end up being closed out when we really completely close out 2023 to give the trial balance to the auditors. But you'll see there's that balance, that 1,826,740 that rolled to right here. And then basically everything that is on this sheet is just every single project that the board has approved and that, that we're budgeting, that we're going to end up paying for, obviously. So like, if we look at the very last thing, this is approved February 22nd, 2024, clubhouse HVAC. Obviously the project was approved for 22,176. Now at this point, we had nothing, we had no checks that were cut on it at the end of February. So that's why you see total obligated is the full amount, 22,176. Now we'll go to the next one up that we actually got a check on, the fleet replacement. You'll see that 51,190 of this we actually issued a check on. So that's the difference between that and the original amount, 90,480 to 39,290. So that's which makes its way into the adjusted balance. Just the amount of so basically you could think about it that this is the total amount, if we paid full price on all these projects that were approved, that's how much we could expect to cut checks on. And it's the same drill for roads. So then here's a road sheet. As you can see, I've already started marking closed out items with the red dots, but it's the same thing for roads as well. So all of those projects that you guys approved a couple of months ago that took a long time, as you can remember, the 8 different ones for roads alone, now you can start to see them all show up in this section of it. Well, actually, I should keep going down. And then here's the 2024 CBC line items down here, but that's how all of those projects make it on here. So we're budgeted for all of this stuff and the obligated amount if we, cut checks on all of it for the amount that was approved. And then that 1,336,000, you'll see there it is for the obligated expenses, just obligated amount that we're going to cut checks on all these approved projects. You could think about it like that. And then down below, we have this net usable cash and all of these numbers up here, like this SURF 3,624,027. So I'll just quickly go right back to the balance sheet. That ties right there to the December 2023 balance, 3.6 million. Then you'll see this 3,803,593. So if I go back down to this sheet, here it is right here, 3,803,593. And then obviously we have all the projected stuff down below. And then we have this board recommended carryover balance. This is just the amount that the board would not like to fall below. You can think about it like that. So they would like to keep a balance of about 600,000 or 600,000 exactly in this case. So then you have net usable cash at the end of the year in 2024. So at this point, if we didn't approve any more projects for SURF, then we could expect to have 2,186,247, or approximately right around that amount. So this amount gets handy, as you can see, throughout the year to look back on if we were going to approve more projects. How much do we really have to work with, so to speak? And then these numbers will kind of track with the capital budgeting spreadsheet as well.
Can I say something real quick about this? So the 105,600, I know this has all been talked about to death, but I still hear a lot of chatter out there. So I'm looking at the December 2023 financial statements, and I'm seeing that the marina had a profit of just under 176,000. So is it fair to say that the entirety of that transfer was, you know, essentially from the marina?
No, the marina income is used as an offset to other operational expenses. That's how the budget is prepared. And the marina income was over what was budgeted, but the majority of it was anticipated as a set of income.
Yeah, it was budgeted to offset costs.
That's
And
right.
they-
That's how this system works. And so
Yeah.
the reason we were able to transfer that money is because there was a surplus of unspent funds from 2023, and half of the $105,000 that was transferred will be, air quotes, replaced in the operational budget by the increase to the marina fees.
But this 105 wasn't budgeted in the 2024 operating budget. That is a net increase, the $50,000. This wasn't budgeted for it. So we had a budget of a certain amount for the marina to offset general operating expenses. In total, we did better. Golf and the marina did significantly better, and our expenses were a little bit over budget, but not too much. And we were able to accommodate that. And so we had, I think it was, let me pull it up real quick, a total of $300,000 profit. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. So our
Actually,
total net income for the year, sorry, I'm on the month now, was 285.
Actually,
Some of that's coming from the marina and some of that's coming from golf. Some of marina and golf's profits were needed for the to cover operations, but not all of them were.
Yeah. I guess like just a very basic, strict sense, you know, looking at December 2023 actual budget variance. So the budget for marina for 2023, 144,339. Then the marina net income, 175. Obviously, this is, you know, revenue minus expenses. Marina net income, 175,968 is rounded. So that gives us a variance of, you know, marina was better than budget by 31,629. So you could think of 31,629 came into marina that was over and beyond what we budgeted for, you know, for the 2023 year. Since all of the marina revenue is used and whatever in the golf revenue is used to kind of like zero out the budget, so to speak, the operating budget. But you could definitely say that the 31,629 is definitely over and beyond what we budgeted to take in from marina that would contribute to that surplus, meaning the total overall surplus.
Right, but we budget to zero, correct?
Yes.
So
But-
we had an excess.
Yeah.
And where did the
meaning-
excess come from?
Or I guess if you could think about it like this, so since we budgeted for 144,339 for marina, like in a really basic sense, you could say that all of operations came up to $144,339 loss with the exception of Marina. So therefore we'll budget Marina to have a net profit of $144,339 to zero out the entire operations. Just maybe that made it more confusing.
No, I understand what you mean, but like, yeah, there's moving parts. We budget to a zero, and then sometimes we end up having an excess that wasn't needed. It wasn't needed from the marina and golf revenue in 2023 to cover dues. It's budgeted to cover things that, you know, to offset dues. But it wasn't needed at the end of the year. And it came from marina and golf fees because
oh yeah, I mean, those would definitely be like the big share of, or if it weren't for marina and golf, then.
All right, and what is your point, Karen?
I just want to acknowledge that the transfer wasn't taking funds away from dues paying members. It was contributed by marina and golf payers.
Sure, yeah, I mean, that would be.
And I have repeatedly said that it is a very positive thing for the association to have revenue streams that are
Exactly.
outside of dues.
I'm not, Joanne, it's not an attack on you. I just want to clarify, have it stated, people might watch this later and just have acknowledgement of where the funds are coming from, because kind of out there in the community, there's a little bit of, I think, confusion about where that excess came from. So it was a financial decision. This is a finance committee meeting.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about how members are funding marina and funding golf, but I think people have to understand that those two revenue sources are actually funding their dues and lessening their dues, because that's the facts.
Unless
and
you
we
take
can-
out capital spend on those two amenities.
Yeah, and we can go ahead, and when we present the budget, we can make that clear to our members. We all know what's happening on Facebook. Our meetings are being chopped up in pieces of things that are said, are put out there, and they're put out there out of context. But there's not going to be a way we're going to stop that from happening by anything that's said in this meeting. If they're going to do it, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But I think Joel and Joanne and Karen, I think you all did a great job of exactly specifying, I think, what has happened and how that $105,000 came to be and where it has gone. And maybe we can probably move on from that.
Agreed. And people are going to chop it up, and that's fine. But other people
Yeah,
are
I
just
know.
listening and observing. And so for those listening and observing, I think it's good to put the information out there.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, the bottom line, I mean, to Karen's point, if it wasn't for Golf Marina in 2023, its operations would be at a loss. So, I mean,
Thanks,
we
Joel.
wouldn't have a surplus at all. We'd actually be in a loss position. So we wouldn't have 105,600 to transfer away.
Thanks, Joel.
Yeah. Actually, the good thing is now that we're talking about golf, the last thing I'll talk about real quick is, so I'll just go to this income statement page here, which is basically it's showing you the same net income, operating net income, but it's just showing you how each department contributed to that number. So like, for example, let me just go quickly back. So there's that 174,794 for the operating net income on this. Basically, you could think about it kind of like a consolidated overall financial statement. And then there's this 174,794 right here. And basically this is showing you basically all the departments that made up, or all the operating departments, how that number got made up. And then the better worse column over here. And really the only department that's really kind of behind is ACC security. And obviously we all know what that is. That's the hazardous tree removal. And that's basically, well, like hazardous tree removals. Let's see if I wrote that number down. Let's just go to this income statement real quick. The departmental income statement for ACC security. Okay. Okay, so you can see right here, obviously, here's the line item, hazardous tree removal. You can see as of year to date, the end of February is 48,653. So we're only about $43,650 over budget on that line item. But you know, this came to the board last month, and now we have a UDR line item, you know, to cover excess amounts for this hazardous tree removal. But that's basically where that's coming from. But then I'll go back, and because golf is our biggest revenue center right here. So we'll just focus on this one line item here real quick. So actual revenue for golf, 223,991. So now last year at this time, at the end of February 2023, they were at 238,829. And I'll just go back to the balance sheet real quick just to show you why that is. Basically, it's because on the balance sheet itself, you'll see the prepaid golf memberships that Brian takes in, and that'll be Kevin, obviously, but that Brian took in October, November, and December of 2023, and then that pertains to 2024. So then that's what it was at the end of December 31, 2023, 112,089. At the end of December 2022, it was, and then basically this amount then becomes revenue in 2024. So this 112,089 instantly becomes revenue in 2024. It's, you know, stuff like annual green fees, trail fees, cart fees, that sort of stuff prepaid in 2023 for the 2024 golf year. Now, at the end of December 2022, it was 153,151. So this amount right here was lower by $41,062 at the end of 2023, at the end of 2022. And basically all that means is fewer people prepaid stuff at the end of 2023 than 2022. So then, since that's the case, then you would expect to see more people probably buying annual green fees and stuff like that in early 2024. So like I said, so just keep in mind that 41,000 amount that I said. So basically, at the end of 2024, or I mean February 2024, is the total revenue 223,991. At the end of February 2023 is 238,829. So now we have the difference of 14,838. So what I'm getting at is they took in $41,000 less prepaid revenue at the end of 2023. But here we are at the end of February 2024, and we're only behind last year in February 2023 by 14,838, meaning it's what I thought. More people are, you know, fewer people, instead of paying at the end of 2023 for 2024, they're now deciding in January and February to purchase, instead of prepaying it, you know, to actually purchase it in 2024 for annual green fees and so on.
So Joel, I know you haven't wrapped up Q1, but can you give us a little, I mean, have you seen that the numbers for golf and marina are leveling out with last year? Or are we still behind?
I can comment on that, Joel. Golf did, as Joel just explained, recover some of the missed revenue opportunity from prepayments, but they continue to be slightly behind last year's pace. And that is not surprising, because one of the major drivers for golf revenue is weather. And the weather that we experienced in the early part of this year was not advantageous. We had significantly more rain this year than last year. Course conditions were challenging. I know Stu can comment specifically on that since he's a golfer, but last year was virtually perfect in terms of our weather, and the Golf Enterprise took advantage of that. This year, we're going to be hard pressed to meet last year's numbers and exceed them, but that is our goal. The good thing about our budget is that we anticipated less revenue in our budget than we actually took in last year. So we're always very conservative in estimating revenue because we know that bad things can happen. And we don't want to count on revenue that we aren't sure we're going to collect. So essentially, we're always budgeting for a surplus in golf revenue. And I think that
And
that is a good
we
posture for us to have.
Well,
have we seen marina renewals increase?
The total marina income will increase because of the increase in fees.
No, I mean, have we had a lot of renewals in March?
Most of the renewals come in after people pay their taxes. And this
Okay.
year is no exception, but we did reach out to people who had not yet responded to their renewal notices. And although we didn't speak to everyone, we spoke to a pretty significant proportion of them, and no one is planning to terminate their contract. Everyone plans to renew, so that revenue should be coming
We're
in
on target.
mostly
Okay,
in
cool.
April.
I know you said that the last board meeting. I just didn't know if anything had changed. So we're still looking to be on target.
Yes.
So check with you in April, end of April.
Well, I mean, I can tell you real quick, like looking into the GL, so at the end of March 2024, so now these are revenues. So the total revenue for golf was 293,000. Then looking at the end of March of 2023, it was 299,000.
Oh, so not bad.
I mean,
So
so
not
we're
bad.
within about $6,800 of
Yeah.
where we were at the end of March of 2023.
Stu must be
versus
getting his
20.
friends out there.
Yeah. So the gap is
Okay.
closing even more from that $14,000 difference.
Great. Thank you, Joel.
Yeah.
And then the marina dues aren't due till May the 10th.
That is
And
correct.
you know what? I think people are gonna hold on to their cash until that first week in May and then send it in. So
Yeah.
like,
If
why would
anyone
you-
is
why would
listening,
you pay for that in April when you don't have to pay for it till the first week of May?
right,
Unless
well,
you
my
want to put
my
the
advice
program in.
though, for anyone that's listening, is to not wait until the last day. Because if you're missing any of the paperwork, and most people take 2 tries before they get everything together. Not everybody, but a lot of people come in expecting to be able to renew, and then they say, oh, I don't have my registration, or oh, I don't have my picture. And without all the materials, we cannot accept payment. So people should give themselves some leeway when renewing.
Definitely.
I was in there the other day. Max was extremely helpful, even checked all my access cards, made sure everything was up to date. It was an excellent experience. He was really proactive, and Morgan as well, in helping me and getting all my information. And so very smooth process. Really appreciated that.
Thanks for that feedback. I will share it with them.
Yeah, so I guess just to quickly wrap the whole thing up, we'll just jump right to the chase. So net income for golf at the end of February year to date, obviously 98,201. At the end of February 2023 is 106,357. So, you know, after all those factors that we just mentioned, they're within about $8,100 where they were last year at this time. Even given the reduced revenue that they took in, the prepaid revenue at the end of 2023. So I would say that's pretty much, I think that wraps up the most important points of the financial statements.
Thanks, Joel. Does
Sure.
anyone have any more questions on the financials?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question about rec. So where are we at right now with the just compared to budget? So scroll all the way to the right. So we're 12,000 favorable. Yeah, favorable. Is that correct?
Yeah.
To budget. And then last year, I feel like we had, let me pull it up real quick. Rec was $21,000 favorable. Anyway, here's my question is when I go into the community center, there's a lot that needs attention. Just, you know, repairs. I don't think it's new information to anybody, and it's not new stuff that's happened. It's just, you know, overall it's things are wearing out and not being replaced, but it doesn't seem to be a funding issue. So we're doing better than budget this year. We did better than budget last year. So not intending to get into all the everything, but what can we do to speed that up?
The 2024 budget has allocated $6,000 for equipment repair and maintenance and an additional $5,000 for other repairs and maintenance. The $6,000 precisely pays for the quarterly inspection and tuning up of the equipment in the fitness center, leaving a budget of $5,000 for everything else. So if we have to replace a pad on a machine or a cord or a cup holder, that rapidly eats into that $5,000. So in order to see additional equipment being purchased, in order to see additional repairs being made to the items that are charged against rec directly, we would have to increase that budget in 2025. Repairs to the facility itself can be charged through the facilities budget. So there is
Like the mirror?
there is funding for
I was
electrical
gonna
work.
ask about that mirror. It's been broken for 8 months. It looks horrible in there.
Okay, so, but we have excess funds from last year that, to my knowledge, haven't been allocated yet. So 105 was, so there, what was it? I just said it. It was like 300 something profit last year. 105 was transferred into SURF. We budget to 0, so there's some hanging out there that hasn't been obligated. Sounds like definitely that budget line needs to be addressed for next year, but I'm thinking that's a long time. So is that something that can happen where we can find some funds somewhere, even if it's from last year's surplus, so that rec gets the attention it needs? I guess that can be a rhetorical question. I'll just leave it at that.
I know, is this something that the long range planning committee is
No, it's a
addressing?
maintenance item.
This is
Okay,
very
so-
short range. They're like 3 to 5 years, and this is like this month or next month. You know, this is this year that it should be addressed.
So are you mainly seeing like the pads? That's what I'm hearing, excluding the mirror. But a lot of the pads are wearing on the equipment.
Yeah, it's not gym specific. It's the furniture, it's the gaming system in the teen room is what I'll call it. It's the toys in the, you know, period. This stuff gets used a lot, and so it just wears out over time. And I believe all of it, the furniture, the gaming system, and most of the toys and activities in the Sunshine Room were donated. Sunshine Room stuff probably over time, but the furniture and the gaming stuff was probably around 2018, 2019. So it just gets worn and it's glitchy, and the furniture is worn and it's obvious, and you know, so it just, this stuff periodically just needs to be upgraded and replaced. It would be nice if there were funds from the association to do it. If not, I think there's probably people still willing to donate it. We just need, you know, where are we at here, and like, let's get it done. Few things, replacing the mirror and anything to do with the equipment, certainly that has to come from the association. We shouldn't be messing with equipment and mirrors and stuff that are facilities related especially. But yeah, so just kind of what's the status? If there's no way to get funds, then let's put it out there to get donations. It was done before, it can be done again.
Okay, thanks, Karen. We can, Stu, something maybe we could discuss with the board and Joanne.
All red in the face.
You know, about nobody wants to see our facilities in ill repair. So I think we can talk about it further outside the
Yeah.
committee.
Can I make a little comment on that? So these things that Karen brought up are very important things, but remember, these are operation things, and it's really up to the management of the association to make the decisions of when these things get repaired. It's the community's responsibility to make the management aware, but it's not up to us to dictate what gets repaired and when it gets repaired. That's the management job. We don't run the association. We provide oversight both from the committee and from the board. So important distinction, you know, it's Joanne's job to run the association, not ours.
Well, then you can consider that a member comment. I've gotten lots of them. I want it on the record. It's been a
Yeah.
long time.
No, I mean, we see him on Facebook all the time, and I think Joanne is probably well aware of him, and she's probably working towards getting things done in a timely manner.
Correct. And people reach out to me as a committee member and want to see that this is something that we also care about, that,
Yeah,
you know,
It's,
our
but
funds are
it's
being
not,
spent
it's not
appropriately.
finance committee's responsibility to repair our facilities. So Mike's here and Joanne's here, and I am sure they have probably had discussions that we are not aware of, and we could chat with them and outside of the meeting. And if you think what the members want is just to know a game plan, even if it's not now, but when, maybe something Joanne could comment on later.
To be fair, I think what the community wants is it to be fixed. If it's because there's no funds, let's see what the community can do to upgrade the space. And by that, I mean furniture and things like that. What I'm not asking for anyone to have a plan of what is going to be done, but what I asked about was, is it a funding problem? It doesn't seem to be. We seem to be doing better than budget, but Joanne brought to my attention that we have a very low funds for, replacing things like that. So that's what I'm trying to get to. Is this a funding problem? Is it not a funding problem? And I think that's it.
It is a funding problem.
Okay.
The rec center is underfunded. There you go.
And that is something we can definitely discuss and comment on in May and June when we do our budget. But
Exactly. That's the exact intent
that's
of
when
the.
we're going to have to do it. Okay. So, any more comments? Okay, so we have 2 items of new business. I will turn it over to, is it going to be Mike or Joanne?
Mike is going to present the first capital request, and I'm going to present the second one.
Okay, on to you, Mike.
Okay, the first one I think you have in your packet, but I'll just go ahead and read through it. It's a capital request for the adult furnace and water heater replacement. The purpose is to request contract award for replacing 2 furnaces and 1 tankless hot water heater at the adult center. The background is the adult center is heated by 2 furnaces that were installed in 1993 and are listed on the reserve study to be replaced in 2024, with $14,000 allocated for replacement. Hot water in the adult center is supplied by 1 tankless hot water heater installed in 2007 and is also scheduled for replacement in 2024. There was $4,000 allocated in the 2024 budget for that. The analysis, both of the furnaces and the tankless hot water system were evaluated, and it has been determined that they are at the end of their lifespan and should be replaced prior to this coming winter. Due to permitting requirements, service reliability, and cost, it is recommended replacing units in conjunction with like-for-like systems. 5 vendors were contacted to provide quotes for replacing the units. Linden Sheet Metal quoted $12,048. Mars Heating quoted $13,570. Angar Mechanical quoted $13,899. Baron Heating quoted $16,254. And Harris quoted $16,800. Linden Sheet Metal submitted the lowest quote at $12,048 plus tax and is the preferred option. Included in that quote is the installation of a condensate pump on the tankless hot water heater to discharge condensation to the existing drain. This will provide longevity to the system, and it may be a requirement upon inspection. They were the only vendor to include this in the proposal, with tax included. The total purchase price is $13,108.22. So for the furnace replacement, it's $7,998, and the hot water replacement $6,098.24. So the proposal is to approve contract award to Linden Sheet Metal to replace 2 furnaces and 1 tankless hot water heater at the adult center in the amount of $13,108.22. So with that, I can take any questions you may have.
Okay, there's no question.
Oh, I
go
did
ahead.
have one. real
Okay,
quick.
sure.
I just was, I read through the quotes, Mike, and one was for an Navion system and one was for a different brand. Is this the same as the existing brand that's there? Is this upgrading to the Navion system?
It's the same, they're all like for like. I looked at both brands, and they're equal, the output of the hot water.
Okay, cool. Just curious. Thanks.
Okay, so we'll make a motion that we move that the finance committee advise the SVCA Board of Directors to approve the allocation of $13,108.22 from SURF and authorize the general manager to execute SVCA's standard construction contract with Linden Sheet Metal. All in favor? Okay, I think that was unanimous. Karen, we can't see you. Oh, wait, you're on twice. Okay. Oh,
It's Heather.
that's
Came in
One
and
of
Heather.
these, Heather.
That's Heather. Okay,
She
so
used
are there any objections? No, okay, so we will recommend that be sent over to the board for approval. Okay, Joanne, do you have the second?
Yes, my request is for contract award and additional construction funding for the 2024 road and drainage projects. On February 22nd, the Sudden Valley Community Association Board of Directors approved $699,000 for Deer Run Lane asphalt improvements and the replacement of 40 to 45 culverts. Also on that date, the board approved $30,000 for the completion of the Cold Spring drainage repair. As a result of those approvals, the two projects were jointly put out to bid with 8 contractors on March 18th. An addendum was issued on April 8th. 3 contractors responded. The following is a summary showing the contractors that were included in the bid process. We received quotes from Granite Construction, Premium Services, and Western Refinery Services. Stremler Gravel, Tiger Construction, Strider Construction, Ram Construction, and Dirt Works Bellingham opted not to quote because they were too busy. Tabulation of the bid results and a copy of the bid package that was sent to contractors is available in P&W's memo dated April 11th, 2024, and it was attached as backup. The tabulation identifies Granite Construction as the low bidder. Total funding of $729,000 is available for the 2 projects. The following items are needed for project support: construction management at $37,125, engineering layout completed pre-construction for $3,000, asphalt testing allowance of $4,000, and monument preservation to be completed by PowerTech Surveying at $9,500. Those support items total $53,625. Subtracting project support costs from the total funds allocated for these projects results in $675,375 available for construction funding. The bid package divides the project into 4 separate schedules of work. Schedule A is for Deer Run Lane. Schedule B is for Beaver Creek Bank improvements. Schedule C is for culvert replacements. And Schedule D is for additional culverts. The total cost for all schedules is $916,153.21. To stay on track with SVCA's 10-year roads and drainage plan, all 4 schedules must be completed. Approved funding falls short by $240,778.21. I recommend that the Board of Directors approve this additional funding because delaying this portion of culvert work until 2025 will require that some of the work already planned for 2025 will have to be delayed until 2026, creating a growing backlog. Second, costs for this work will only continue to rise, so it will be more expensive to do this work in 2025, which drives costs higher overall. Funding is available. The 2024 capital budget for roads includes an expected residual, which you get after subtracting the reserves carryover of $1,552,153. I propose that the Board of Directors authorize the general manager to execute SVCA's standard construction contract with Power Tech Surveying with a not to exceed amount of $9,500 for the purpose of completing monument preservation on Deer Run Lane. I propose that the Board of Directors approve $240,779 in additional funding for the capital project 9924.4 from the Roads Reserve Fund. And I propose that the SVCA Board of Directors approve the Granite Construction as the contractor for the 2024 roads and drainage projects and authorize the general manager to execute SVCA's standard construction contract with Granite Construction with a not to exceed amount of $916,153. Are there any questions?
Just one for me, Joanne. On Schedule D, additional culverts, I'm just having a hard time because I'm looking at my phone. Those culverts have been identified?
Yeah, so when the budget was prepared, when the budget was prepared back in the summer of last year, we only had a memo from Impact Design identifying the items of highest priority to be included in the next year's budget. And it was good that we had that input and we were able to move forward in planning on this project because of that input. But the truth is that the final plan wasn't available until later in the year, until October. And the final plan took into account many other items that hadn't been fully understood or accounted for when we got that memo from them early in the process. You know, we got that memo, I think in August, July or August, and that was several months before the final report was ready. So the final report includes additional infrastructure. We found many culverts, new culverts during the process, and they had to be added to the overall 10-year plan. And then we also did not have costs for bridges and large-scale fish passage culvert replacements and repairs during the summer estimate. So in order to keep up with all of the recommended replacement and repair in that 10-year plan, we need to complete all the improvements in the 4 schedules. The reason that there are 2 schedules for culvert replacements is basically because we anticipated that this larger number of culverts would put us over budget. And we wanted to structure the requests in such a way that there was the option for the Board of Directors to say, no, we don't want to approve additional funding for this. We have what we have, and that's that. I don't think that's the right choice, but it is certainly a possible choice. And so we set up the bid in this particular way.
Okay, thank you. And again, that was just because it's almost 10 o'clock and my eyes are going and I just couldn't see.
Well, I had to print out those 2 schedules on 11 by 17 paper in order to make them.
No problem. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, just kind of in general, if Joanne or Joel could answer. So what's our impact on the 2025 budget? Are we going to have to increase the budget for 2025 to adjust for this expenditure that we have this year, the $240,000, or are we going to be okay for next year, or where are we at?
Well, I would say, yeah, it'll have an impact in 2025. With this new updated study, just to put it in a quick nutshell, like the earlier years in terms of cash balances will be fine. It's just when we start getting into the later years, like, 7, 8, 9, 10 and the 10-year schedules. So obviously we're going to have to recast, the 10-year roads plan when we go into the next budget process for 2025. But for the next few years, it doesn't really present any sort of a big problem.
Okay. Yeah, so the question is really, are we going to have to start looking at adjusting dues or what to to compensate for all these extra expenditures or not. Preferably not, but you know, we have to be aware of what the 10-year plan is and how much money we're going to need going down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I would say kind of a forerunner going into the budget process, like with the new roads plan, where we have to adjust dues allocations and stuff like that between operations and roads and stuff like that. Yes, that would be a possibility, yes.
So you have the updated plan. Have you put it into the roads spending plan yet to see what it looks like, inflated at the 4% or whatever?
I haven't like officially updated my plan. Tyler has we actually just met with him last week about this. I believe it was just last week, wasn't it, Joanne, when we talked to him?
Yeah,
And
we entered in the changes in bulk, so we didn't
Yeah.
update the actual reserve study, which is done at the individual level for each asset, but in bulk put in the changes, and there is a pretty significant impact that would need to be addressed, as Joel indicated, through a reallocation of money to capital funding.
yeah.
Maybe you don't have it in front of you, but like, if you looked at an average over the next 10 years, what's the burn rate? Or maybe this is something to discuss at the budget meeting when we talk about capital.
Yeah, I think it really should wait until that time. We do know that, and we have seen this for the last several years, the cost of capital projects has been increasing significantly more than the rate of inflation as defined through the consumer price index, right? We see a significant increase in the cost of capital projects, plain and simple. And that needs to be addressed. We also see now from this 10-year roads plan that there is additional infrastructure that needs to be maintained, and we have current and realistic estimates for what it costs to do that maintenance. So it was an excellent step on the part of the association to commission that study. It's been in the works for several years. Receiving and completing that study last year positions us very well to understand what we're facing over the next 10 years. And so our capital budgeting for roads will be much, much more accurate. But it is a change, and additional funding will be needed.
That study is required to be updated every 10 years, right? So like, we'll do this one 10 years, follow it, and then we have to get a new one, right?
Actually, it's done every 5 years.
Oh, 5 years. Oh, okay. Okay.
It's in
Real quick.
yeah, it's even in our roads budget to be done every 5 years.
Oh, okay. When do we send all the data to the reserve study specialist?
The budget schedule that was presented to the board of directors at the last meeting called for us to get the first draft back in June of the reserve study.
Okay, so my question is, the last two, the inflation rate he's put in there was 4%, and then he built into it like a 3% dues increase, I think, every year, or actually it varied, but some of them were 3. If you're saying it increases by more than that, I mean, that's historical, that's 30 years, but what I'm thinking about, and I would wait till the budget meeting, but it looks like we're going to be talking about it after, is does it make sense to adjust some of those assumptions going into the reserve study?
Well, actually, like one of these, so the reserve study was done fairly conservatively, meaning that 4% inflation factor. And actually, when it comes to the dues, like the expected road reserve dues, we just kept it flat, meaning we obviously it was adjusted for what the 2024 dues would be. And then it was just the assumption was the dues would not be going up, meaning that would be the conservative, meaning it's very conservative. Obviously, that won't be the case in reality. So yes, so to answer a quick answer to that question, yes, we can certainly adjust those, which will definitely help the bottom line on the residual amounts.
I do think that we need to look at some of these areas beyond just CPI, as industries are, as you said, right, far outpacing what inflation is. And if we look at what the CPI index just did, I think it would behoove us in those areas where costs are much higher than that to be making our assumptions, our underlying assumptions based on that versus
Yeah, I
inflation
don't know
rates.
that I would recommend that, Heather. The reasoning behind that is we don't know what costs are going to do. We know what they did, right? And that's the reasoning behind completing or renewing the 10-year plan every 5 years. It allows you to do a major true up. And then the 4% is, as Joel pointed out, a reasonable and conservative way of estimating change in the interval. And then that 5-year true up, we'll see a jump, right? And we'll see that reflected in next year's budget. There will be a jump, but then we'll be keeping pace with it in those 4% increases for inflation.
Yeah, but this wouldn't address capital at all, which has the same assumptions going into it. And I think Heather makes a fair point. Like it's CPI is what's being used, and I know they use the standard, but really when we're looking at construction projects, it's probably something closer to the producer price index. That
Yeah.
CPI is a specific basket of goods. I'm not saying we necessarily do it, but it would certainly be interesting to have that sensitivity analysis to know how much does a 5% or a 6% affect us over the next 10 years or 30 versus 4 or 3 or 2. And to know how that is going to impact our cash flow going forward. Otherwise, I don't know how you have a really robust financial plan going forward if you're not really looking at, hey, this one little, I mean, for one thing, I know we're getting off topic, I'm sorry, but one thing that's built into there is our interest rate that we get on our deposits that are sitting there. It's 2%. I don't know if we get 2% or not, but if you look at those later years, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 that is budgeted looking at, and that's, oh, we're going to be this good off, but a lot of that money is coming from interest, and I don't know if that's what we're getting. So I think truing up those assumptions that go into it, because they have big impacts when you're planning out 30 years. But I move to approve this capital request that we got off track of.
So any more comments or are we good for to take some votes? Okay. So we move that the Finance Committee advise the SVCA Board of Directors to authorize the General Manager to execute SVCA's standard construction contract with Power Tech Surveying with a not to exceed amount of $9,500 for the purpose of completing monument preservation on Deer Run Lane. All in favor? Okay, I think that was unanimous. Okay, so we will approve that for the board. And then motion 2, we move that the Finance Committee advise the SVCA Board of Directors to approve $240,779 in additional funding for capital project 9924.4 from the Roads Reserve Fund. All in favor? Okay, so unanimous. And motion 3, move that the Finance Committee advise the SVCA Board of Directors approve Granite Construction Incorporated as the contractor for the 2024 roads and drainage projects 9924.4 and 9922.8, and authorize the general manager to execute SVCA's standard construction contract with Granite Construction with a not to exceed amount of $916,153. All in favor? Okay. That will be approved. Okay, any other business that anyone has? Otherwise, we can adjourn. I think did I capture everything? Let me go back and look at the so much easier being at home. Okay, that is all on our agenda unless there's anything anyone needs to comment on. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Okay, well,
Can't
we'll
make all
sit
the
here for
motions.
another 10 minutes. Okay, so it is adjourned. It is not 9:54. It is
7:54.
54. Okay, so meeting is adjourned until next month.
Thanks.
Thank you all for coming and making the effort.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mike.